a second question. There are just a few questions that I'd like to ask you in the audience. So, do you see yourself, where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years' time? Look at the friends around you. Do you think that you see yourself in like a lab coat, or do you see yourself as a businesswoman? Or do you see yourself, I don't know, sitting at home? What do you think you will be doing in the next 5 or 6 years? Have a think about it for a few minutes, and then we can have some people talk about what they think.
10 years at least.
10 years. Yes.
Maybe 10 to 15 years. What you would like to do. Is there anyone who would like to share? Yes?
I see myself finishing my studies in MIT in Boston, and basically I would like to be practicing technology and robotics to see how maybe androids work, because they've basically been what I've wanted to do when I was little, so...
Wow.
Anyone else who wants to share what they think they might be doing?
I see myself in the lab surrounded by other students, writing down new discoveries and just finding connections and just writing them down and being excited.
Ooh.
Does anyone else want to share? Or Sanjana?
So I've always been confused whether I wanted to pursue a career in business or in medicine, and now I don't exactly see a position yet, but I see a possibility of being able to pursue both and being able to merge my two interests.
Does anyone else want to share anything? Zero?
I see myself cramming in maths to understand what the physics is behind quantum gravity.
Wow.
So another question that I think I'd like to think a bit more about is what you're doing in school now. Do you feel that it's really helping you think in a different way? Do you feel that studying science now in school is what you would expect it to be? Do you think you can apply it to real world solutions? Do you think that's what you may be interested in the future? So if you want to talk about it a bit, and then maybe we can have some other people share what they think.
That's a license to talk.
Repeat the question. They haven't understood. Repeat the question.
So I would just like you to think about what you're studying now, and do you feel that it will be useful to you in the future, especially what you do in science?
Well, now I don't know what I want to do. Either I want to study engineering, or I want to study chemistry. I either want to be a scientist, I either want to be a businessman, I either want to be an actor, I either want to be a where you want to be. Right, they have so many
I think what we're doing in design and technology, as Ms. Gallagher mentioned, being the first girls' school to have a Fab Lab, probably that will really, in a way, kind of increase our level of understanding, probably, with technology. And I'm like I love maths and sciences, and I aspire to be like Monica and all these panelists about hopefully in 5 years. And kind of, I feel like what we're doing in sciences, I can imagine what I really want to do is probably, you know, like anti-aging. Whenever I think of 5 years ahead, usually people come up like Sade's with robotics, but all I can think of me looking old. So probably with a pet robot, and obviously, yeah.
Would anyone else like to share what they think?
Well, sometimes in science class I feel like, do I really need to know the entire periodic table by heart? But other times, like in chemistry, I think, wow, like really this maybe will actually help me later on, and this information I can use to real life situations, which I think, wow.
Wow.
We will have one last person. Would anyone else like to share?
I think that everything's really interconnected in the world that we live in now, and it has been for so long that even if you're taking sciences now and you really don't care about what you're learning because you feel like it won't affect you in your career choices, everything is so interconnected that it's important and vital that you learn this information so that you can apply it later on.
So now we will take any other questions that the audience may have for the panelists. Would anyone like to ask any? Sorry, do you want to come to the house?
I was wondering if any of you ever feel intimidated by the overwhelming number of men in STEM careers, and how long do you think it will take for it to level out?
So I was waiting for this question. I was really waiting for this. If you were not going to ask, I was going to ask this to you guys. So I have to say, it could be because of my background. I have a sister, and my dad traveled a lot, so I grew up mostly with my mother. And we are like a girly family, had girly nights, girly evenings, girly mornings. But still, when I went out to the world, I knew that there were boys and men around, but we never saw it differently. And I never saw this difference throughout life because it was a very competitive world where I lived in. In India, I was in one of the top 1% of schools. Only 5 were taken for a master's by research program, and I was one of those. And then I came to Cambridge again. It was a very competitive program. I was one of 3 who got through the PhD, and then I went to MIT and Harvard. But nobody ever talks about, are you a girl or a boy? They always look at you as, ooh, you are one of the top people here, right? So nobody ever thinks about man or woman. But when I start training students, teaching students in university, I tend to see that majority of the world is not that way. As a school child or as a university child, there seems to be some kind of barrier to, oh, I'm a man, or I don't think men actually think like that. Girls think like that. I'm a girl. Am I fit for this? Should I be doing this? But really, if you see from the point of outside world, I would like to believe, and I still think this way, there is no difference. You know, there is no reason to be intimidated. If you are good at what you are doing, people around you will respect you for what you know and what you can contribute to the society. So there is really absolutely no reason to be intimidated. If you feel intimidated, just go back learn a bit more about the work that you're doing, gain a little bit more knowledge. That will give you the strength to face the society.
I totally agree with all the points that have been made here. The thing to do and remember is believe in yourself in terms of who you are and what you are capable of doing. I've spent like 24 years being in meeting rooms full of men. Did I let that bother me? Absolutely not. Did they look at me in a different way? They possibly did, but did I ever let that bother me? Never, not at all. So it's really believe in yourself, believe in what you are capable of doing, and contributing within whichever environment that you're in. Never let this male-female agenda bother you at all. Because there is a lot of debate and discussion that goes on, but just believe in yourself and have that self-confidence.
I echo the believe in yourself, but I don't have the same experience. I would say that the field that I was in was classics, and it was a very male-dominated field as well. And my own daughters went through the same educational program. They both attended classics programs in Oxford, different colleges. And one of the things that they really had to cope with was a different approach to girls and to boys in the classroom. So how we manage that, I think, is to acknowledge it, not to allow it to shape your response, not to be cowed by it. I have been at meetings where, in the education world, and I think it may well be different in terms of the kind of environment you find yourself in a male-dominated room, very often as a female, you will say, why don't we do X? And there isn't a response. And then 2 minutes later, some man says, why don't we do X? I said, what a good idea. Did that not come out of a woman's mouth half an hour ago, 20 minutes ago, my mouth 10 minutes ago? There is not, it's not uniform. That you will have to be cognizant of the fact that you are female, and that in some contexts you will not be taken as seriously. What I completely agree with here is do not allow that to backfoot you, or do not close down because you feel like your voice is not being heard. It's very important that your voice is heard and that you're not dismissed because it is a female voice speaking. It's a different, slightly different perspective. You want to go?
Yes. Yes. I would like to add to that. I think we both kind of agree on the point that you should not let yourself intimidated or discouraged by anybody undermining your statements. But it can happen, not just because you're a woman, but just because you probably the only STEM or the only non-STEM person in a crowd of STEM. So how many here strongly believe you want to be a non-STEM humanities person works for policy making? No politicians? Nobody wants to follow Theresa May?
Yes, I think there are a few little hands.
Right? So you could feel strongly that you want to be one way and the crowd wants to be another way, and you still can be fine to thrive in that crowd if you are a person who brings in a unique information. So that's kind of the point I wanted to make. So I come from a background in India where we speak many languages, but we are united by English. So we all can converse with each other by English, but I speak Tamil and my husband doesn't speak Tamil. So, so we have differences at the level of language, we have differences at the level of skin color, we have differences at the level of gender, we have differences at the level of what we know and what we don't know. There will be always differences on a panel, and the best way to shine through that is you be the best at what you want to be. That's probably what I want to say.
Can I add something which is maybe a bit controversial?
As always. Because I interview a lot of women's executives that have succeeded. And one of them told me, I'm in telecom, and one day I was in a conference, it's my experience, There was 150 people at the conference. I was listening, and the man sitting next to me said, "Isabel, did you realize you're the only woman in the room with 150 men?" I hadn't even realized it. And I said, "Oh yeah, okay, whatever." But however, that executive, what she told me is, being the only woman is a big advantage if you can capitalize on that. Because you're different by nature. The men, they have to compete amongst each other to get the attention to them. They have to be really great. Not that I'm not great, but some days. And you have to be comfortable with the fact that you're the only woman. Actually use that to your advantage. Now, you can't just be good because you're a woman, but you have to then use that and prove that you know what you're talking about, prove that you have great ideas, prove that you're a leader, but use that to your advantage. And also, I speak often with women in telecom, and what they struggle with is, do I have to be like a man to be successful? Do you have to act like a man to be successful? I said, no, be yourself, and be yourself as a woman. If you want to wear, whatever you want to wear, you're comfortable in that. Be yourself, and that's important. You don't need to change and to be like a man to be successful in business. And all the women I interview prove that. They are very, active, dynamic. They are women. And I think we have to stop being, trying to change that. And the more we do that, the more it's going to become the norm. And I think it is very important. So if you want to paint your nails and not paint your nails, don't feel it because you're going in STEM, it shouldn't be done. If that's what you like to do, do it. And if you're different to everyone else, be different. Embrace that difference. Because often I talk to my customers and I keep telling them, you have to differentiate from your competitors. But we rarely think about differentiating ourselves to our competitors in the workplace. So if you're able to do that, but also obviously have the content behind that, that's very important.
Yes, I would just say, that as a final point, that one of the other parts of that question was, do you think we'll get to gender equality? And currently, at the going rate, will take us about maybe, say, 70 to 80 years to have like a 50-50 in not just STEM, but across society and other sectors as well in the workplace, equal pay, all of those issues. So I just think it's really about sort of not being intimidated, because if we continue to be intimidated, we're not going to achieve gender equality in a shorter space of time. I don't want to wait 70 years. So it's all about kind of not being intimidated. And also, you can also be intimidated by women. And so it's not just men. There are some women, I guess, that I've experienced as well, that especially in the STEM sector, they try and mirror men and be quite aggressive. I found that sometimes a few clients in the STEM sector, you find the women are really trying to get masculine traits, and I would say don't do that. Really celebrate, your feminine traits. Women are really great in terms of bringing more sort of emotional sort of aspects in terms of negotiations. There's a lot of research that I've written about actually that says, if you're in a meeting and there's a man and a woman is going to be more sort of have more empathy towards the client, is able to kind of reason and sort of connect with people. So you really have to kind of celebrate what you bring to the table as a woman. And recognise that you bring valuable assets as well. It doesn't mean you have to be better than a man, it's you kind of bring something else to the table is what you have to remember as well.
We'll take 2 more questions. Does anyone else have a question? You can take more than 2 if it doesn't take that much time. But, what's that?
Hello again. I had another question in mind. It's open to the whole panel, but particularly for Dr. Devian. Coming from an Indian family, my parents have always been obviously a bit academically oriented, but I've always got different kind of advice from my grandparents and my parents. So my grandparents' views are more conventional and a bit traditional, but my parents they're more modern, and I won't blame my grandparents for that because that was the environment they've grown in. So for us girls, we just take advice from any family. They're one of the most important parts of our life, so we always take any advice from them. But for this age, how can we teach girls the difference between a barrier and an influencer? Because sometimes, indirectly, we do not understand the advice that our grandparents or maybe some a bit more traditionally thinking teachers give might not always be right and appropriate. So, like, how can we differentiate between that and at the same time not hurting the other person's feeling or intention, just to give advice? Because this is like an everyday thing for me. Trying to tell my grandpa that this is not exactly right, but not telling him that this advice is totally useless. And so,
I completely empathize with you because I have been, I am still, and I will continue to be in that boat. And I think all of us are somewhat in those boats throughout life. We have to say no to certain people and we have to say yes to certain people. But coming back to your question of how do you distinguish between what's a barrier and what's an influence, I think there is something that Ms. Gallagher mentioned a while back, that's where the answer is, which is you have to read widely, right? How do you know one singular person has the solution to your question of what you want to do? The only way you will know is by reading widely, understanding what you like, what your strengths are, embracing your weakness in a positive way, engaging with people who are trying to advise you where is their advice coming from. And I think a positive attitude and seeking knowledge, thinking about life in a more analytical way and not worry about, why are people coming with disparate advice? That's the way to go forward.
You clearly described in terms of the confusion that your grandparents and your parents are causing in your life, right? and that will continue to happen. I'm 50 plus and I still have to think about what I say to my mother, how I interact with my mother. But that's not a bad thing, you know. You have to be selective. The main thing to remember is respect. Respect the advice that has been given to you by your mother, by your friends, by your grandparents. But be selective in terms of how you utilize that to the things that you want to achieve out of life. But never forget respect.
And to add to that, just one additional thing. When you're looking at the path of your life, and now you will have a very clear sense of some of the things that might interest you in 6 months' time. For some in the room, they will change, and 6 years' time, they will change. Be open to the opportunities, because all of us can tell you that the big things in life are things that we have not predicted necessarily. There are moments that present, and they're chance moments, and for some reason we take them. So it's important to be open to the opportunities that will come your way and allowing them to open the doors that you don't even see as barriers or potential influences at the moment.
When you were asking that question, I did think I can really relate. So when I was growing up, my parents are from Zimbabwe, so I grew up, they came to the UK when they were 18 years of age. And I come from a very, very strict African family, so you only had 3 career options: medicine, accountancy and law, and that was it. There was no debating. And I remember when I was 4 years old, my parents bought me this doctor's medical kit, and they were like, "You're going to be a doctor." And that was really ingrained from 4 years old. And I think they were quite lucky that I just liked the sciences, and I kind of did gravitate towards that. But I had that pressure throughout my childhood. And then obviously, as I spoke to you briefly, I did go to do biomedical science. But I would say that you have to really educate your parents as well. So if you think, because I know what it's like when they've got pressure, they just want the best for you. And they're coming from a mentality where my parents were immigrants and they had to work hard, and they know that life is very hard in this world, and they just want you to kind of be in the best position. And I remember when I decided when I did my biomedical science degree, I was supposed to go and do the GAMNA, or GAMSAT, I can't remember what it's called. It's like an exam to do graduate medicine. And I decided to go the other way and go into a different sector. I did banking. And my parents were really devastated, really, really disappointed in me. But now I've got my business, they're really proud, because now they can say, "Oh my God, you're a fellow of the RSA and you were in the Guardian," and they're like, "Oh, this is my daughter now." They're like kind of really proud. Whereas before they were like, "Oh, where's Vanessa? Oh, we don't know what she's doing." So they will come around, they will really come around, because once you educate them and once you show them, okay, look, this is why I want to do what I want to do, and then once they understand and put the pieces together, you'll find it's more easier. So really kind of use it as an opportunity to really kind of sell it to your parents, whatever it is that you want to do. But just finally as well, I would say you have to really follow your passion and follow your heart. I think it's quite interesting because I don't want to come here and say don't listen to your parents. Your parents they know what's best for you, but sometimes they might know what's best right now because things are changing. So really kind of just, as I would say, just educate them.
Actually, I'm still impressed by your question. I can't believe it came out of your mouth because it's something I struggle still to this. I'm not as brave. I'm not going to tell you my age. I'm not that brave, but I still struggle with that with my mother. So sadly, I don't have a perfect recipe for you. I'm going to be a bit more esoteric. It's your life, and you know what will make you happy, or you will find out through your life what will make you happy. And about life at the end of the day is about being happy and finding that balance that makes you that. Because when you're happy, you'll make people around you happy. And also often I tell the people I'm with,